My name is Clarice Monroe. I am 78 years old, and I watched the people I loved most walk away from me. Not in a fight, not with shouting, not even with tears. They walked away quietly. Before I tell you how that day changed my life forever, let me say this. If you love deep, emotional stories about strong women, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss what comes next. And tell me in the comments what country you're watching from, so I know who is sitting with me right now. Now listen carefully. Because the moment they turned their backs on me was the moment my old life ended. They stood at the door with their bags already packed. My son held the handle. My daughter stood behind him, arms crossed. My grandchildren avoided my eyes. No one looked angry. That hurt the most. I think this is best, my son said. Best. That word sounded so calm, so clean, like it didn't carry pain inside it. For who? I asked. He sighed. For everyone. Everyone except me. I looked around the living room, the couch I paid for, the pictures on the wall, the floor I scrubbed on my knees when my back already hurt. This is still my house, I said. My daughter nodded quickly. We know. Then why did it feel like I was already being erased? You don't need us anymore, my son added. I felt my chest tighten. I raised you, I said softly. When did I stop needing family? He didn't answer. He just opened the door. That was the moment. The exact moment. The one the title speaks about. I watched them walk away. The door closed behind them, and the sound echoed through the house like something final. I stood there for a long time, staring at the door. I did not chase them. I did not beg. I did not collapse. I just stood. Because something inside me had gone very quiet. Not broken. Quiet. I whispered to myself, so this is it. For years, I had been the one holding everyone together. Cooking, babysitting, listening, giving, fixing, paying when I shouldn't, smiling when I was tired. I thought that meant I mattered. But the moment I became inconvenient, they left. Let me take you back. This didn't start that day. It started slowly. After my husband passed, the house got quieter. Too quiet. My children came around more at first. They worried about me, or at least they said they did. Don't worry about bills anymore, Mom. You've done enough. Just rest. Rest. That word sounds kind, but it can also mean step aside. Soon, decisions were being made without me. Small ones at first. Then bigger ones. I was still there, but less included. When I spoke up, I was told, don't stress yourself. When I asked questions, I was told, it's not that serious. Until one day, my daughter said something that stayed in my bones. You've lived your life already. Already. Like my life was over, and I hadn't been told. Back at the door, after they left, I finally moved. I locked it. That sound, click, felt heavy. I walked slowly through the house. Each room held memories, laughter, arguments, late-night prayers. Now it held silence. I sat down in my chair by the window and stared outside. Cars passed, birds moved, the world kept going. Without them. Without me chasing. And in that quiet, a thought came that scared me more than being alone. What if I disappear now? What if no one checks on me? What if no one needs me? What if I have no purpose left? I felt tears rise. Then something unexpected happened. Anger. Not loud anger. Clear anger. I whispered, I didn't give my whole life just to be discarded. That was the first time I said something for myself. That night, I barely slept. My phone stayed silent. No messages. No calls. No, are you okay? In the morning, I woke up to sunlight on my face. And something else. Space. For the first time in years, I had a full day with no one needing me. No one asking. No one taking. No one deciding. Just me. I didn't know yet whether that freedom would save me or break me. I only knew one thing. They had walked away. And now I had to decide what to do with the woman they left behind. That afternoon, as I stood in my kitchen holding a cup of tea, I heard a knock at the door. My heart jumped. I thought maybe, just maybe, they came back. I walked slowly toward the door. And when I reached for the handle, a strange calm washed over me. Because deep down I knew, whoever was on the other side of that door was about to change everything. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I stood there with my hand on the door for a long moment. The knock came again, soft, careful, not rushed. My heart was beating fast, but I didn't feel weak. I felt alert, like something inside me had woken up. I opened the door. It wasn't my children. It was my neighbor, Mrs. Daniels. She stood there holding a small plate covered with foil. "I saw them leave," she said gently. "I thought you might need something to eat." For a second, I couldn't speak. Not because I was sad, but because someone noticed. "Thank you," I finally said. She stepped inside and looked around the living room. Her eyes went to the empty couch, the quiet corners. "They just walked out?" she asked. "Yes," I replied. She shook her head slowly. "I'm sorry, Clarice." I nodded and took the plate from her hands. "So am I." She stayed for a short while, talking about nothing important. The weather, her garden, her bad knee. Then she stood up to leave. "If you need anything," she said, "anything at all, knock on my door." "I will," I said. After she left, the house went quiet again. But it felt different this time. Less empty. More real. The next few days passed slowly. No calls. No messages. It was like my children had erased me the moment they walked out that door. At first, I kept checking my phone. Then I stopped. I cooked small meals. I cleaned a little. I sat by the window and watched people live their lives. And something strange happened. I began to notice myself again. My thoughts. My breath. My likes. My dislikes. Things I had ignored for years. I remembered how much I loved mornings, the quiet kind, with no one rushing me. I remembered I liked my tea strong, not watered down like my daughter preferred. Small things. But they mattered. On the fourth day, I found an old photo album in the hallway closet. I hadn't opened it in years. I sat on the floor and flipped through the pages. There I was, younger, smiling, standing tall. I barely recognized her. "You were strong," I whispered to the woman in the photo. "When did you forget that?" I asked myself. That question stayed with me. On the fifth day, my daughter called. Her name flashed on my screen, and my heart jumped before I could stop it. I let it ring twice before answering. "Hello," I said. "We need to talk," she said. No greeting, no apology. "I'm listening," I replied. She sighed. "You didn't answer my messages." "You didn't send any," I said. Silence. "That's not the point," she said quickly. "This situation is uncomfortable." "For who?" I asked. "For everyone," she replied. I smiled sadly. Everyone keeps leaving me out of that word. She ignored that. "We can't just pretend nothing happened," she continued. "I'm not pretending," I said. "I'm living." She paused. "That's not what I meant." "What did you mean?" I asked. She lowered her voice. "People are asking questions." There it was. "About what?" I asked. "About why we left," she said. "And what did you tell them?" I asked. Another pause. "That you're difficult," she said. That word felt heavy. Difficult. The word people use when they don't like boundaries. "I watched you walk away," I said quietly. "That wasn't difficult, that was painful." She sighed again. You're making this harder than it needs to be. For who? I asked. She didn't answer. We'll talk later, she said quickly, then hung up. I sat there staring at the phone. So that's what this was. Image. Not love. That night, I dreamed of my old life. Of noise, of chaos, of being needed. I woke up sweating. Then I sat up and realized something important. I was not lonely. I was grieving. Grieving the life I gave everything to. Grieving the role I played so well that I forgot who I was without it. The next morning, I made a decision. I would not sit and wait. I would move. Not away. Forward. I put on my shoes and stepped outside for the first time in days. The air felt good on my face. I walked slowly down the street, past houses I had lived beside for years but never truly seen. People waved. Morning, Miss Clarice. I waved back. I had been here all along. They just never noticed me before. At the community center, a small sign on the door caught my eye. Adult Skills Workshop, New Beginnings. I stood there reading it again and again. New beginnings. At my age. I almost laughed. Then I remembered the woman in the photo album. The one who stood tall. I walked inside. A young woman at the desk smiled. Can I help you? Yes, I said. I'd like to learn something. She smiled wider. You're in the right place. As I filled out the form, my hands shook, not from fear but from excitement. When was the last time I did something just for me? I left the building with a paper in my bag and a strange feeling in my chest. Hope. That evening, my son called. I stared at the phone for a long moment before answering. Mom, he said. His voice sounded tired. Yes, I replied. You okay? He asked. Yes, I said again. He hesitated. You don't sound upset. I'm not, I said. That caught him off guard. You're not, he asked. No, I replied. I'm thinking. He sighed. We didn't mean to hurt you. You still did, I said. Silence followed. We thought you'd struggle, he admitted. With what? I asked. Without us, he said. I looked around my quiet house. I'm still here, I said. That made him quiet. We'll talk soon, he said. I hope so, I replied. After the call ended, I sat back in my chair. They expected me to fall apart. Instead, I was standing up slowly. That scared them. And deep down, I knew something else was coming. Because people who walk away once often come back when they realize you didn't collapse. And when that happens, everything changes. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I did not tell my children about the paper in my bag. I did not tell anyone. That paper felt small, but it carried something heavy. It carried a door I had never tried to open before. A door that belonged only to me. That night, I placed it on the small table beside my bed. I did not read it again. I already knew what it said. New beginnings. The words stayed with me as I drifted into sleep. The next morning, I woke up early. Earlier than usual. The house was quiet, but this time it did not feel empty. It felt like a blank page. I made my tea and sat at the kitchen table, watching the light creep across the floor. For the first time in years, no one needed me. No one was calling my name. No one was asking for money. No one was waiting for breakfast. And that scared me. I won't lie. When you spend your whole life being needed, silence can feel like a threat, like proof that you no longer matter. But I stayed with that feeling. I let it sit with me. Because running from it was how I lost myself the first time. After breakfast, I got dressed and picked up my bag. My hands trembled as I stepped outside again. Not because I was weak, but because I was doing something new. The walk to the community center felt longer this time. Every step reminded me of my age. My knees ached, my back complained. But my mind felt young. When I walked in, the same young woman smiled at me. "You came back," she said. "Yes," I replied. "I said I would." She handed me a form. "You'll be joining a small group today." A group. That word made my stomach tighten. I had spent years being surrounded by people, yet never truly seen. Did I really want to sit with strangers? "Yes," I said anyway. She led me into a room with 5 chairs in a circle. 4 other people sat there, all different ages, all different faces. But I noticed something right away. They were all alone in their own way. We introduced ourselves slowly. When it was my turn, I said, "My name is Clarice." I paused. "I'm learning how to live again." No one laughed. No one looked away. One woman nodded slowly, like she understood. That meant more than she knew. When I got home later that afternoon, my phone buzzed. A message. From my daughter. "We need to talk, in person." I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to protect this small, new thing I was building. But another part of me knew this was coming. People do like it when you change without asking them. "Come by this evening," she wrote. Not a question. A command. I typed slowly. "We can talk tomorrow." 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then a message came back. "Why are you being like this?" I smiled sadly. Being like what? A person. I put the phone down and went about my evening. I cooked a simple meal. I ate slowly. I watched the sky change colors outside my window. Peace felt strange, but good. The next morning, my daughter showed up unannounced. I heard her knock, hard this time. I opened the door. She stood there with her arms crossed, her face tight. "You didn't answer me," she said. "I did," I replied, "just not the way you wanted." She stepped inside without asking. "You can't just shut us out," she said. I closed the door gently. "You shut me out first." She shook her head. "That's not fair." "Neither was walking away," I replied. She looked around the house. "You look fine." "I am," I said. That made her uncomfortable. "We didn't think you'd be okay," she admitted. "I know," I said. "And now?" she asked. "Now I'm learning," I replied. She scoffed. "Learning what?" "How to live without begging for love," I said. Her face flushed. "That's dramatic." "No," I said calmly. "It's honest." She sighed. "People are talking." "There it is," I said softly. "Talking about what?" I asked. "About how we left you," she said. "About how you're suddenly everywhere." "Everywhere?" I smiled. "I've always been here." She leaned forward. "You're embarrassing us." That sentence landed heavy. "I didn't embarrass you," I replied. "Your choices did." Her voice rose. "You're acting like a victim." I met her eyes. I stopped acting like one. That stopped her. "You think this little independence phase is going to last?" she asked. "Phase?" I shook my head. "This isn't a phase, this is my life." She laughed sharply. "You'll get tired." I smiled gently. I already was. She stared at me, breathing hard. Then she said something that chilled me. "You know we didn't leave for no reason." My heart skipped. "What do you mean?" She looked away. "You were becoming inconvenient." Inconvenient. The truth, finally. "Inconvenient how?" I asked. "You were changing," she said. "You were asking questions, saying no." I nodded slowly. "So you left." She didn't deny it. "I watched you walk away," I said quietly, "and I survived." That scared her. I could see it. Because people expect you to break when they leave. Not build. She turned toward the door. "This isn't over." "No," I replied. "It is." After she left, I sat down in my chair by the window, my heart pounding. Inconvenient. That word stayed with me. I realized something important then. They didn't leave because I was weak. They left because I was waking up. And people who benefit from your silence do not like it when you start building a life without them. That evening, my phone rang again. This time, it wasn't family. It was someone from the community center. "We're starting something new," the woman said, "and we think you'd be perfect for it." Perfect. No one had called me that in a long time. "What is it?" I asked. She hesitated, then said, "A leadership role." Leadership? At my age? My hands trembled. "When would it start?" I asked. "Soon," she replied. I hung up slowly, my heart racing. Because suddenly, this was bigger than survival. This was purpose. And I knew one thing for sure. If my children found out what I was about to build, they would not take it quietly. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I did not tell my children about the call. Not because I was hiding something, but because, for the first time in my life, something belonged only to me. That night, I sat by the window longer than usual. The streetlights came on one by one, casting soft, yellow circles on the road. I wrapped a light shawl around my shoulders and listened to the quiet. Leadership. That word felt strange in my mouth. I had led my family for years without a title, without thanks, without rest. But this felt different. This was not about holding people together. This was about building something new. And I was afraid. Not of failing. Of being seen. When you've spent years shrinking so others feel big, standing tall feels dangerous. The next morning, I went back to the community center. The same young woman smiled when she saw me. "You're becoming a regular." "I think I like it here," I replied. She led me into a small office this time. A few chairs, a desk, a bulletin board filled with flyers. Another woman joined us, older than the first, calm, kind eyes. "We're starting a program," she explained, "for older women who feel left behind." Left behind. That phrase hit close. "We need someone to help guide the group," she continued. "Someone who understands." I swallowed. "Why me?" She smiled softly. "Because when you speak, people listen." That almost broke me. "I'm not trained," I said. "You're lived," she replied. "That matters more." I walked home with my heart full and heavy at the same time. Because I knew. The moment my children found out, I was no longer just surviving, but leading. They would not stay quiet. That afternoon, my son called. His voice sounded careful, too careful. "Mom," he said, "we need to talk." I leaned back in my chair. "About what?" "About what you're doing," he replied. I frowned. "What do you think I'm doing?" "People are saying things," he said. "There it is again," I replied. "People." He sighed. "You've been going out, meeting people, getting involved." "Yes," I said, "I'm living." "That's not what I meant," he said. "You're changing." "I already did," I replied. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that made my stomach tighten. "You're making us look heartless." I closed my eyes. "So that's what this is," I said softly. "Not concern, image." "That's not fair," he snapped. "You walked away," I said. "I didn't announce it. I didn't cry to the world. I just kept going." "You could have called us," he said. "You left," I replied. "That was the call." Silence. Then he said, "You're not as strong as you think." That hurt. But it also cleared something inside me. "I survived you leaving," I said. "I think I'll survive your opinion." He hung up. I sat there staring at the wall, my heart racing. Because now I knew. They were watching. And they were afraid. A few days later, I stood in front of a small group of women at the center. My hands shook. My voice didn't. I spoke about loneliness, about being needed until you are not, about watching people walk away and feeling like the world shrank. I saw heads nod, tears fall, understanding spread across faces, and something powerful happened. I felt useful again, not as a helper, but as myself. After the meeting, one woman hugged me and whispered, "You said what I've been scared to say." I went home that night feeling taller. The next morning, there was a car in my driveway. Not my son's, not my daughter's. Another car. My heart skipped. I opened the door. My daughter stood there. But she was not alone. Someone else stepped out behind her. Someone holding a folder. My daughter's voice was tight. "We need to talk, now." I looked at the folder, then at her face, then back at the folder. And suddenly, I understood. They hadn't come to listen. They had come to stop something. I stepped aside slowly. "Come in," I said. But deep down I knew. Whatever was in that folder was meant to pull me back into the life I had just escaped. And I had a feeling. This time, they were not going to walk away quietly. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. They walked into my house like they owned the moment. My daughter first, her back straight, her face tight. Then the woman behind her stepped in, holding the folder close to her chest like it was something important, something final. She did not smile. That alone told me this was not a friendly visit. "Mom," my daughter said, "this won't take long." I nodded. "That depends." The woman cleared her throat. "Mrs. Monroe, my name is Karen. I was asked to come today to help clear some things up." "By who?" I asked. She glanced at my daughter. "By your family." Family. That word felt different now. "Sit," my daughter said, pointing toward the couch. "I'll stand," I replied. The woman noticed. She didn't push. She just opened the folder. "We've been hearing concerns," she said, "about your recent behavior." Behavior? Like I was a child. "What behavior?" I asked calmly. "You've been very active," she said carefully, "making decisions without consulting your children." I almost laughed. "My life requires permission now," I asked. My daughter stepped in. "Mom, please don't do this." "Do what?" I asked. "Speak." The woman raised her hand slightly. "Let's keep this respectful." "I agree," I said. "That's why I want honesty." She looked at her notes. "Your family is worried you're isolating yourself." I shook my head. "They left, I stayed." My daughter's jaw tightened. "You're twisting things." "No," I replied. "I'm remembering them clearly." The woman hesitated. "There are also concerns that you're being influenced by outsiders." "Outsiders? You mean people who listen to me?" I asked. She didn't answer. "Let me be clear," I continued. "I watched my children walk away from me. I did not chase them. I did not beg. I began to live." "That's not how it looks," my daughter snapped. "Looks to who?" I asked. The woman finally looked up. "Mrs. Monroe, this conversation is about your future." "My future is already happening," I replied. She shifted uncomfortably. "Sometimes families need to step in." "When?" I asked. "When a woman stops centering them." My daughter raised her voice. "You're embarrassing us." That word again. Embarrassing. I felt something settle inside me. "Sit down," I said quietly. They both froze. I walked to the chair by the window and sat slowly, on my own terms. "I watched you walk away," I continued, "and instead of breaking, I built something." The woman frowned. "Built what?" "My life," I said. My daughter scoffed. "This is temporary." "Is it?" I asked. "Or is it just inconvenient?" The woman closed the folder slightly. "There are options." Options? That word felt heavy. "What kind of options?" I asked. She hesitated. "Support structures, guidance." "Control," I corrected. My daughter stood up. This isn't going anywhere. It is, I replied, just not where you planned. The woman took a deep breath. Mrs. Monroe, we can escalate this if needed. Escalate? My heart beat faster, but my voice stayed calm. Do you know what happens when you push someone who has nothing left to lose? I asked. She didn't answer. You find out how strong they really are, I continued. I stood up. This conversation is over, I said, unless you're here to listen. My daughter stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. This isn't finished, she said. No, I agreed. It is. They left without another word. The door closed. I leaned against it for a moment, my legs shaking now that they were gone. They had not come to understand. They had come to contain me. That night, I barely slept. My phone buzzed once. Then twice. Messages from my daughter. You've gone too far. You're ruining everything. I did not reply. The next morning, I went to the community center again. When I walked in, the woman from the program smiled. We need to talk. My stomach tightened. About what? She lowered her voice. Someone called. My heart dropped. Who? I asked. She hesitated. They said they were concerned about you. Concern. Always that word. And what did they say? I asked. Her expression changed. They said you shouldn't be leading anything. The room felt like it tilted. They're trying to stop you, she added quietly. I closed my eyes. So this was the next move. If they couldn't pull me back home, they would pull the world away from me. I opened my eyes slowly. And in that moment, I knew. This was no longer about family. This was about whether I would be allowed to exist loudly. And the choice in front of me was clear. Stay small, or stand firm. And whichever I chose next would decide everything. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I stood there in the hallway of the community center for a long moment after she told me. Someone called. Someone complained. Someone tried to silence me again. My chest felt tight, but I did not sit down. I did not cry. I did not rush out. I breathed. Who called? I asked quietly. The woman shook her head. They didn't give a full name, just said they were family. Family. That word felt heavy now. What exactly did they say? I asked. She hesitated. They said you were confused, that you were acting out of character, that you shouldn't be influencing other women. Influencing. I almost smiled. Did they say I was dangerous? I asked. She sighed, not in those words. But that's what they meant, I said. She nodded slowly. We didn't believe it, but we had to let you know. Thank you, I said. She studied my face. Are you okay? I thought about that question. Was I okay when my children walked away? Was I okay when they tried to pull me back? Was I okay when they tried to take away the only thing I was building? Yes, I said finally. I'm still standing. She smiled softly. That's what matters. I walked out of the center with my head high, but my heart was loud. My thoughts moved fast, bumping into each other. They didn't just leave me. They were trying to erase me. That realization hurt more than anything before it. I walked home slowly, every step heavy. When I reached my house, I stood on the porch and looked at the door. This house had seen everything. Birthdays, funerals, arguments, love. Now it was watching me change. I went inside and sat down in my chair by the window. The afternoon light spilled across the floor. For a moment, I just stared. Then my phone buzzed. A message. From my son. We need to talk. You're making this worse. I did not reply. Another message came. They called the center, didn't they? My heart dropped. They knew. Which meant they were watching closer than I thought. I placed the phone face down on the table. I watched you walk away, I whispered, and now you're watching me walk forward. That scared them. Later that evening, there was a knock at my door. Not gentle. Firm. My heart began to race. I stood up slowly and walked to the door. When I opened it, my son stood there alone. No bags. No smile. Just tension. "We need to talk," he said. I stepped aside. "You can come in." He walked in and stood in the middle of the living room like he didn't know where to place himself. "They called the center," he said. "Yes," I replied. "You shouldn't have let it go this far," he snapped. I crossed my arms. "You shouldn't have tried to stop me." He ran his hand through his hair. "You're embarrassing us." "There it is again," I said. "Us." "This family," he replied. "You left," I said calmly. "Remember." He looked away. "That wasn't the plan." "What was the plan?" I asked. He hesitated. "Say it," I said. "To give you time," he replied. "To cool down." "Until I stopped building something without you?" I asked. He didn't answer. "That's not concern," I continued. "That's fear." "Fear of what?" he asked. "Fear that I don't need you anymore," I replied. His jaw tightened. "You do need us." "I needed you when you walked away," I said. "Now I'm learning to stand." He shook his head. "You're being stubborn." "No," I said. "I'm being free." He stepped closer. "If you keep this up, you're going to lose people." I looked at him carefully. I already did. That stopped him. "You think these new people will stay?" he asked. "I don't know," I replied, "but I know I will." Silence filled the room. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. "There are other ways to handle this." My heart began to pound. "What do you mean?" He exhaled slowly. "If you don't step back on your own, others might step in." Others? That word carried weight. "Is that a threat?" I asked quietly. He looked at me, eyes hard. "It's a warning." I nodded slowly, then listened to mine. He frowned. "I am not confused," I said. "I am not weak, and I am not done." He stared at me like he didn't recognize me anymore. "Good night," I said. He left without another word. The door closed behind him. I locked it. My hands were shaking now. Not from fear. From anger. They had crossed another line. That night I wrote everything down in my notebook. Every word, every look, every warning. Because something deep inside me understood now. This was becoming dangerous. Not loud dangerous. Quiet dangerous. The kind that happens behind smiles and concern. The next morning, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "You need to stop before this gets ugly." Ugly? My heart raced. I stared at the message, then slowly typed back. "I'm not stopping." The reply came fast. "Then don't say we didn't try." I dropped the phone. My hands were cold. They were not walking away anymore. They were closing in. And I knew one thing for sure. If I didn't make my next move carefully, they would make it for me. I looked at my notebook, then at my door, then at myself in the mirror. "I watched them walk away," I whispered. "And now they're trying to pull me back." But they had forgotten something important. I had already started building a life without them. And tearing that down would not be as easy as they thought. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. That morning, I did not leave the house. Not because I was afraid, but because I needed to think. I sat at my kitchen table with my notebook open, the pen resting between my fingers. The words from the message still rang in my head. "Don't say we didn't try." That sentence told me everything. They were done pretending this was about love. Now it was about control. I looked around my kitchen, the same walls, the same table, the same window where I had watched my children play years ago. I remembered their laughter, their scraped knees, the way they ran to me when they were scared. I raised them to be strong. Somewhere along the way, they learned strength meant power. And power meant deciding for someone else. I wrote one sentence in my notebook. They are afraid of what I am becoming. Seeing it on paper steadied me. Fear makes people do dangerous things. Around noon, my phone rang again. This time, it was my daughter. I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. Yes, I said. Her voice was tight. Why are you doing this? Doing what? I asked. Acting like we're the enemy, she snapped. I didn't act, I replied. I reacted. She sighed loudly. You're tearing everything apart. No, I said calmly. I stopped holding everything together alone. Silence. Then she said something that made my chest tighten. You're making people think we abandoned you. I almost laughed. You did, I said softly. That's not how it happened, she replied quickly. You packed your bags and walked out, I said. I watched you. Her voice dropped. You didn't give us a choice. That sentence made my hands shake. I gave you my whole life, I said. When did I stop deserving a choice? She didn't answer. You're being influenced, she said finally, by those people. Those people listen to me, I replied. That's the difference. She lowered her voice. If you don't stop this, things will happen. My heart began to pound. What things? I asked. She hesitated. Things you won't like. I closed my eyes. Is that another warning? I asked. She hung up. I sat there staring at the phone, my breathing slow and careful. They were escalating. That afternoon, I went to the community center anyway. I refused to let fear decide my schedule. When I walked in, the women smiled when they saw me. One reached out and squeezed my hand. You okay? She asked. Yes, I said. I'm still here. We sat in a circle and talked. One woman shared how her children stopped visiting once she stopped babysitting. Another spoke about being moved out of her own home for her own good. As I listened, something became very clear. My story was not rare. It was just quiet. And quiet stories are easy to erase. When it was my turn to speak, my voice did not shake. I watched my children walk away, I said, and I thought that meant I was done, but it didn't. It meant I was free to start again. The room went quiet. Then one woman whispered, I wish I was brave like you. I swallowed hard. I wasn't brave, I said. I was tired of disappearing. When I left the center, my heart felt heavy but strong. But that feeling did not last long. When I got home, there was a letter taped to my door. My name written neatly on the front. Clarice Monroe. My stomach dropped. I peeled it off slowly and went inside. I sat down and opened it. The words inside were polite. Too polite. It talked about concerns. About support. About next steps. It asked me to contact a number. Soon. Very soon. My hands trembled. This was no longer just family pressure. Others were involved now. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in my notebook. Proof. I whispered to myself, so this is how they do it. Quiet letters. Gentle words. Firm consequences. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made my body tense. Around midnight, I heard a car pull up outside. I held my breath. Footsteps. Then silence. I did not look out the window. I did not open the door. I stayed still. In the morning, the car was gone. But the fear stayed. Later that day, my son showed up again. This time, he did not knock. He used his old key. I heard the door open and felt my heart jump. Clarice, he called. I walked into the living room. You don't get to do that anymore. He froze. I forgot you changed the lock. Yes, I said, I did. He stared at me. This is exactly what I'm talking about. No, I replied. This is exactly what you're afraid of. He stepped closer. You're making mistakes. I'm making choices, I said. He shook his head. You don't understand what's coming. I understand enough, I replied. He lowered his voice. You think this ends well for you? That question hit deep. I don't know how it ends, I said, but I know how it won't. How? He asked. With me being silent, I replied. He stared at me for a long moment, then said something that made my blood run cold. You should be careful tonight. My heart skipped. Is that a threat? He hesitated. Then he said, it's advice. He left without another word. I locked the door behind him and leaned against it, my legs weak. They were not just watching anymore. They were warning. That night, I packed my bag again. Not to run. To be ready. I placed my notebook on top. Then I sat on my bed and stared at the wall. I had built something small but strong. And now they were circling it, trying to decide whether to tear it down or take it from me. Outside, the sun went down slowly. I whispered, I watched you walk away. Then I added, now I'm watching what you do next. And something told me. Tomorrow would not be quiet. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Tomorrow did not come quietly. I woke up before the sun, my body already tense, my mind racing. The house felt different again, not calm, not safe, like it was holding its breath. I sat on the edge of my bed and listened. No cars. No voices. No knocks. Still, I knew something was coming. I got dressed slowly, choosing clothes that felt like armor. Nothing fancy, just strong. I tied my shoes carefully and stood in front of the mirror. You are not lost, I told myself. You are building. The words helped, but my chest still felt tight. When I walked into the kitchen, my phone was already buzzing on the table. Unknown number. I stared at it until it stopped. Then it buzzed again. I answered. Mrs. Monroe, a calm voice said, we need to speak with you today. About what? I asked. There are concerns, the voice replied. Concerns. Always that word. Who raised them? I asked. There have been reports, the voice said carefully. We'd like to clear a few things up. When? I asked. Today, the voice replied. Soon. I closed my eyes. I will be available, I said, on my terms. There was a pause. We'll be in touch, the voice said, then hung up. My hands were shaking when I set the phone down. They were moving fast now. I went to the community center anyway. If this was going to explode, I refused to hide. When I arrived, the woman from the program met me at the door. Her face was serious. They called again, she said. My heart sank. What did they say this time? They asked about you, she replied. About your stability, about your influence. Influence. That word again. What did you tell them? I asked. I told them the truth, she said. That you help people, that you are steady, that you are needed here. Tears burned my eyes. Thank you, I whispered. She squeezed my hand. Whatever is happening, don't stop showing up. I nodded. That meeting was the hardest one yet. As I spoke, I felt eyes on me. Not just the women in the room, the invisible eyes of people who wanted me small again. Still I spoke. About fear. About walking away. About building something new when everyone expects you to disappear. The room was silent when I finished. Then one woman said, they're scared of you. I nodded, I know. When I got home, there was a car parked across the street. Not familiar. My heart began to pound. I walked inside and locked the door. Minutes later, there was a knock. Firm, controlled. I took a deep breath and opened the door. Two people stood outside. A man and a woman. Clipboards. Professional smiles. Mrs. Monroe, the woman asked. Yes, I replied. We'd like to talk. I'm listening, I said. They stepped inside. The man spoke first. We've received concerns about your well-being. From my children, I said. He hesitated. From family. I watched them walk away, I said calmly. Now they're watching me build. The woman blinked. We need to ask a few questions, she said. Go ahead, I replied. They asked about my daily routine, my health, my memory, my finances. I answered everything. Clearly, carefully, without fear. Then the man asked, do you feel pressured by anyone? Yes, I replied. The woman paused her writing. By who? She asked. My children, I said, and anyone they send to silence me. Silence filled the room. We're not here to silence you, the man said. Then listen, I replied. I told them everything. The walking away. The warnings. The calls to the center. The letter on my door. When I finished, the woman closed her folder slowly. You don't appear confused, she said. No, I replied. I am focused. The man nodded. We don't see immediate cause for action. Relief washed through me, but not completely. However, the woman added, we'll be monitoring the situation. Monitoring. That word stayed with me. They left soon after. I locked the door and leaned against it, my legs shaking. They didn't take me. But they didn't let me go either. That was worse. That evening, my daughter called again. Her voice was sharp. They came, didn't they? Yes, I replied. You told them lies, she snapped. I told the truth, I said. You're forcing our hand, she said. My heart skipped. What does that mean? She hesitated. Then she said the words that made my blood run cold. We can't let you keep doing this. Doing what? I asked. Building a life without us, she said. I swallowed hard. You already walked away, I replied. And now we're walking back in, she said. The line went dead. I sat there staring at the phone. Walking back in. Not to love. To control. That night, I packed my bag again. Not because I planned to leave, but because I needed to be ready if they tried to take something from me. I placed my notebook on top. Proof. Truth. My voice. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling. I watched you walk away, I whispered. And now you're trying to come back and rewrite the story. Outside, a car engine started. Then stopped. I held my breath. Footsteps passed my window. Then silence. I did not sleep. Because deep down I knew. Tomorrow would be the day they stopped asking. And started acting. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I did not sleep at all that night. Every sound outside made my body tense. A car door, a distant voice, even the wind brushing against the window felt like a warning. I lay there staring at the ceiling, my bag packed beside my bed like a quiet promise. Not a promise to run. A promise to be ready. I watched you walk away, I whispered. Now I'm watching you come back with intentions. That thought scared me more than being alone ever did. When morning finally came, the light felt harsh, like it was exposing everything I had been trying to hold together. I got up slowly, my bones aching, my mind sharp. I made tea but barely drank it. I sat in my chair by the window and waited. For what, I didn't know. But my body knew something was close. Around mid-morning, my phone buzzed. A message. From my daughter. We're coming by today. We need to end this. End this. I read it 3 times. End what? My freedom. My voice. My life without them. I did not reply. I picked up my notebook and wrote the words down. They want to end this. Seeing it on paper made my hands steady. I had learned something important over these weeks. People who want to end something usually mean they are losing. An hour later, there was a knock at my door. Not firm, not gentle, confident. I stood up slowly and walked to the door. When I opened it, my daughter stood there. And my son. And behind them, someone else. A man I did not know, wearing a calm smile and holding a folder. My stomach dropped. "This is Mr. Harris," my daughter said quickly. "He's here to help us talk." Help us talk. That lie was almost impressive. I stepped aside without speaking. They entered my home like it was already theirs again. The man nodded politely. "Mrs. Monroe, thank you for agreeing to meet." "I didn't agree," I replied, "but go on." My daughter sighed. "Mom, please don't do this." "Do what?" I asked. "Listen." We sat. I chose my chair by the window. They chose the couch. The man opened his folder. "We're here to discuss next steps," he said. Next steps. That phrase made my chest tighten. "For what?" I asked. "For stability," he replied. "There it is," I said quietly. My son leaned forward. "We're worried about you." "You weren't worried when you left," I replied. "That's not fair," my daughter snapped. "No," I said, "it's accurate." The man cleared his throat. "Mrs. Monroe, sometimes family needs to intervene when a loved one makes decisions that could harm themselves." "Harm?" I asked. "Like finding purpose." My daughter's face flushed. "You're being dramatic." "I'm being honest," I replied. The man continued. "There are options available, temporary ones." Temporary. That word rang loud in my head. "Temporary control," I said. He smiled tightly. "Temporary support." "I didn't ask for it," I replied. My son stood up. "This can't keep going like this." "You walked away," I said. "You ended it." "And now you're embarrassing us," my daughter added. There it was again. Embarrassment. Not concern. Not love. Image. I leaned forward slightly. "You are afraid because I didn't disappear." Silence filled the room. The man closed his folder slowly. "Mrs. Monroe," he said, "we can do this the easy way or the hard way." My heart began to pound. "What does the hard way look like?" I asked. He hesitated, then said, "It involves people making decisions for you." My hands tightened around the arms of the chair. "That's a threat," I said. "It's a reality," he replied. My daughter wouldn't meet my eyes. My son looked torn. I stood up slowly. "I watched you walk away," I said, my voice calm but strong. "And I survived." I looked at the man. "You don't get to end my life because it makes them uncomfortable." The man frowned. "You're refusing to cooperate." "Yes," I said, "I am." The room felt heavy. Dangerous. Then my daughter said something that made my blood run cold. "If you don't agree today, we'll make sure you don't have a choice." My heart slammed against my ribs. I looked at my children. Really looked. And I realized something painful and clear. They were no longer asking. They were preparing to take. I took a deep breath and reached for my notebook. "You should leave," I said quietly. "Now." They stared at me. "You think this is over?" my son asked. "No," I replied. "I think it's about to be exposed." The man snapped his folder shut. "We'll be in touch," he said. They left. The door closed. My legs gave out and I sat back down hard. My hands were shaking. Not from fear alone. From understanding. They were going to try one last move. Not with words. With action. I picked up my phone and stared at it. I had one decision left to make. Stay quiet and hope they stopped. Or speak so loudly that stopping me would be impossible. I whispered to myself, I didn't build this life just to lose it. Outside, another car pulled up. I held my breath. Because deep down I knew the next knock on my door would decide everything. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I did not open the door when the knock came again. I sat very still in my chair by the window, my notebook in my lap, my phone resting beside me. My heart was beating fast, but my mind was clear. For the first time in a long time, I was not reacting. I was choosing. The knock came again. Then I heard voices outside, my daughter's voice, my son's voice, and someone else. I stood up slowly and walked to the door, but I did not open it. Instead, I spoke through the wood. "You need to leave," I said. Silence followed. "Mom," my daughter said, softer now, "please." I closed my eyes. "I watched you walk away," I said, "and I learned something important that day." No one spoke. I learned that love that leaves, when it's uncomfortable, was never meant to stay. My son exhaled sharply. "You're making this worse." "No," I replied. "I'm finishing it." I opened the door just enough to see them. They stood there looking smaller than I remembered, tired, frustrated, afraid. Behind them, the man with the folder shifted his weight. "I have spoken to people," I continued. "People who listen to me, people who know what's happening." The man frowned. "Mrs. Monroe." "You're not invited into my life," I said. "Not anymore." My daughter's eyes filled with tears. "We just wanted things back the way they were." "That's the problem," I replied. "The way they were was killing me." The man stepped forward. "If you don't cooperate—" "I am cooperating," I said calmly, "with my own life." I reached into my bag and held up my notebook. "Everything is written here," I said. "Every visit, every warning, every attempt to silence me." My son's face changed. "You wouldn't," he said. "I already did," I replied. That was the moment. The moment the power shifted completely. The man stepped back. "This isn't necessary." "It is," I said, "for me." They stood there for a long moment. Then my daughter looked at my son. "We can't force this," she whispered. My son nodded slowly. The man closed his folder. They turned and walked away. Not angrily. Not loudly. But finally, the days that followed were quiet. Not empty. Peaceful. I kept going to the community center. I led the group. I listened. I spoke. I laughed. Women came early just to talk to me. "You helped me find my courage," one said. I smiled. I found mine first. My children did not come back right away. Weeks passed. Then one afternoon, my daughter called. Her voice was different. Not sharp. Not demanding. Just tired. "I see you now," she said. "I always wanted you to," I replied. We talked, slowly, carefully. Not everything healed. But boundaries were born. And boundaries are a kind of love too. One evening, I sat in my chair by the window, the same chair I once feared would become my whole world. Now it was just a place to rest. I whispered the truth out loud, the truth that carried me through everything. I watched them walk away. I smiled gently. And I built a life without them. Not out of anger. Not out of pride. But out of survival. And then out of joy. Because I finally understood something every woman deserves to learn. You are not meant to disappear to keep others comfortable. You are meant to live. And I was just getting started. If this story touched you, please subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more emotional stories like this. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Somewhere out there, I might be reading.